We are in a leadership tragedy and it's only going one way. If you look out in the world, you can see hopelessness, immorality, just a complete loss of value systems. When you look at leadership, in terms of leaders, you see world leaders just behaving crazily. You can see local leaders, you can see company leaders. And the most important leader is you and I, leading our families, leading our friends, or leading our own lives. This video is going to highlight really one of the biggest downturns and why most people are living such a fabricated life when it comes to leading themselves, leading their families, leading companies. And we all know that everything rises and falls on leadership. And this video is for you if you're a leader, whether you're just leading your family, whether you're leading sports teams, whether you're leading a company, whether you're leading any kind of team, this video is definitely for you. So there's two types of leadership mindsets that I've noticed. One of them is transactional. Transactional means that my perceived value of you or someone is based on what I can get out of you. These types of leaders are really fueled by what they can get, how much money they can make, how you can make them look better, and they're always looking at what's in it for me. And I'm pretty sure as I'm saying this, you can think of a few people, and I certainly can too. One of my earliest memories of this style of leadership, and you know what, it really took me by surprise because I actually joined an organization and I was a part of a team. And it was the first time where I really felt a sense of belonging, and I felt like somebody was really there to help me, to be honest. Saw him as like a mentor, as a coach, and we worked together for a while, and I would really lean on them and edify them, and they were always there for me. And I just felt like, you know, they'd call me bro, and all these things just seemed really right, and it was all going really well. And this is the thing about a transactional way of thinking, is that it happens very, very quickly. Because when you realize that people are operating out of what I can get, everything seems normal until it doesn't. And let me explain. So what happened was we were building an organization together, and all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'd been building my own organization, as in, you know, this industry, that's how we do it. And he all of a sudden made a decision to leave and join another organization, but he didn't think to tell me that. Instead, he proceeded to use me as almost like a chess piece to try and really manipulate the organization. And I'll never forget sitting back for the first time ever and thinking, wow, so I'm bro when it suits you, but all of a sudden, when there's something else for you to get, the relationship didn't mean anything. And I can think of so many experiences over the last decade where I've seen people really abuse their status, really abuse their position of leadership, when all along they're thinking transactional. Transactional thinkers, transactional leaders, remember, are always looking to prop themselves up at any expense. And if we look at the world, if we look at people in governments, if we look at people, egotistical athletes, or anyone who abuses their position, they're all thinking like this. And I just remember, first of all, being extremely disappointed. Secondly, being very, very encouraged, because I saw an opportunity to try and recreate a style of leadership. And then when I looked into it more, it wasn't about recreating, it was about going back to what real leadership is for you and I. How do we really become a successful, long-standing, long-servant leader? Another example I'll tell you about transactional leaders is that they're always thinking about their status. And I can think of many people who will brush really significant problems or issues that they should really deal with, but they'd rather push things to the side because it will attack their status or attack their image. And so when we're thinking in transaction, we're thinking about, how do I look in this situation, as opposed to the second type of mindset that we're going to talk about. Can you think of a time where you were doing some work with someone, maybe you were building a business? It doesn't have to be building a business, but building something significant as a team, as a unit. And everything was going good. And when everything's going good, I mean, we're all the kings, right? We are the main leader. But then all of a sudden, there was a personal problem or a personal issue. And actually, maybe it was a disruption. Maybe it was actually detrimenting the business, but they made a decision to prioritize business and money over people, over the person, over you maybe. And that is when, as a society, we start a very slippery slope. When we don't value people, when we don't serve hearts, we serve money, we serve pride, and we serve possessions, that is when the transactional mindset has a serious detrimental effect. When you look at global leaders, do you see leaders that are serving people? Do you think of leaders who are thinking about you and I and everyday people? Or are they merely taking care of themselves? Are they lining their pockets for money, for power? What do you think? And this is the major problem. As leaders, we have to be the solution. And as long as we think transactionally, as long as we operate transactionally, we are on borrowed time. It is not a long-term solution. It is not a long-term play. And as I said, I'm not here to teach new concepts. We're here to return to what real leadership is. And that's why the second mindset of leadership is relational. A leader with a relational mindset says, I value you more than you could ever do for me. Why is this important and why is this more powerful? Because a real leader sees the heart in the person, not what they can get for them. They don't see them as money. They don't see people as opportunities. They see a heart to serve. And leadership is, I make you better and we do it together. That's really the mentality. And again, let me just take you back and ask you a question. If world leaders, global leaders, sports team managers, sports team leaders, and leaders at home, how fathers lead the family, if we led to serve the people we take care of, how do you think the overall outcome will be? How do you think the outcome will change? Do you think it creates more of a fruitful environment? Do you think there will be actually better results in the long run? Or would you say that transactional is the way to think? One of my earliest experiences of this, and I'll never forget it, is being in the same industry as I was before, a very similar environment, and I met someone who would become my first actual mentor. And at the time, I was just a member of the organization. I didn't actually have a title, I didn't have a position, and this particular person was actually at the highest level of the organization. So he was deemed to be, the top leader. And I'll never forget the way, first of all, how he made me feel, because listen, people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I'll never forget the first words he said to me was, "What can I do for you?" And automatically, it was a different way of service. He was asking, "How can I serve you?" He didn't ask me what my rank was. Am I entitled to spend time with him? Because some leaders who think transactionally, again, they think about themselves, where you can only speak to me if you're at this position and I only listen to people. There was none of that. It was, forget everything. How can I serve you? And there's a reason why he became my mentor, is because that really, really resonated with me. And we've been working together now for the last 10, 11 years, and not just as, working in business, but as actual best friends. And I think back to those other leaders who thought transactional and seeing how their journey has unfolded. Watch them jump from person to person, watch them have highs and lows. Meanwhile, I look at the other style of leadership, which is relational, and it's very constant. In 2018, I had the most transformational experience of my entire life. I was actually going through a very, very challenging time. And I just got back from Las Vegas, and for some reason I found myself going into a local McDonald's to get a McFlurry, I think it was doing. And I came across a lady who was actually a street pastor, and she invited me to church the next day. And funnily enough, I'd had these weird little inquisitive thoughts and been thinking about faith for a long time and never really understood it. And she said, "Dan, why don't you come to church tomorrow?" And I thought, I'm not going to church. That's not what I do. But something in me I just felt compelled to go. So there I was on the Sunday in church, feeling very, very uncomfortable. And a guy appeared, and the lady kind of said, "Oh, meet Dan." And I'm pretty sure to this day, I don't remember recalling telling him my name, but he kind of just said out of nowhere, "Dan, let's meet for a coffee tomorrow." And at that period of my life, I was kind of like, this is kind of a strange thing to happen, but I'm just rolling with it. And I met him for a coffee. I remember exactly the setting. We were sitting there having a coffee. We had never, ever spoken before. And not long into the conversation, we were just having a really, enjoyable chat and getting to know each other. And he turned and said to me, "Dan, I've got a feeling you've been thinking about getting baptized, and I've got 2 pairs of shorts and 2 towels in the car. Should we just go and do it now?" And obviously at that point, I was just very, very taken back. I'll remind you that I was in a very bad period of my life. I'd lost pretty much everything. And something in me just said, "You know what, let's do it." So I'll never forget, guys, I gave my life to Christ in the middle of a leisure centre in a place called Chatham, which, if you know it, it's not not the nicest place, but really, I didn't care. And that was the day I gave my life to Christ. And the reason I'm telling you this story is that that's somebody who saw a heart, saw a soul, and saw somebody who needed saving. He didn't care about how much money I had. He didn't care about how much money I'd lost. All he cared about was serving the heart. And that's why all this time on, 8, 9 years on, we are still really great friends. This is somebody that I actually later on found out has worked at some of the highest levels when it comes to leadership in governments and so on and so forth. And really the message and the story and the takeaway you should be looking at is that these two examples of relational mindset, we are still in blossoming relationships. We actually do business together in both aspects. But what comes first is our friendship. And for me, guys, that is what leadership is all about. It's about serving the heart first. Let's serve each other, and together we can be greater for the rest of the world. Look, I've made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and made a lot of money. And what I've really understood is that transaction and treating people like a paycheck, there is no substance to it. There is no fulfillment for it. And when I look at real leadership, leadership is really when we serve the heart, when we look to build purpose in our lives, but also more importantly into others. When you look at successful teams, successful leaders over a long period of time, they value relationships more than the transaction. They value who they can become together, who they can help others become, more than how much money can we make, or how good can we look, or how good can we feel. And honestly, guys, people have it all so wrong. They don't realize the peace, the fulfillment, and the purpose of when you serve people relationally. Because we're all so fixated on the outcomes. We're all so fixated on how much can I make, how much can I get. And when we think like that, our vision shrinks. We think about today, we don't think about next year, we don't think about in decades. And let's be honest, guys, what is the meaning of life? Is it just to make money and die? Or is it to build real meaningful connections, leave legacy, serve one another, and together become great? Let's take an example. You're running a business, you have a team of people, you have customers who are really enjoying what you do, and you're making 20,000 per month. And someone comes along and says, listen, I'll give you 100,000 per month if you come and join our organization and you start to promote our products. You know that where you are serves your customers better. You know that they're getting a better experience where you are, but you can get 100,000 per month over here, and maybe you can put your favorite people in a better position. What do? A transactional leader looks at the opportunity to take more money, to look good to their main people, to make it look like they're really taking care of their people because they really care about them. But really, the people at the bottom, which are always the most important people of an organization, the customers, the people that really have the cogs moving, suffer. A relational says, listen, the best for our people is to stay right here, and we figure out a solution or maybe a method or a plan to where we can improve. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where transactional leaders rise, but then they fall. Because why? The truth always comes to light. I can think of so many examples like this in a particular industry, but also across various different places. What about governments? Have you ever seen an example of a government leader taking a paycheck or maybe doing something at the interest of themselves, the people around them, and whilst the people closest to them that benefit may love them for it, let's be honest, it's all in transaction and not having people's hearts at the center of their decision.